file cabinet.
It's like a bowling alley. Uh-oh, uh-oh.
All right, you're on.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Good evening and welcome to the July 20th, 2023 regular scheduled meeting of the Montclair Historic Preservation Commission. This is a regular scheduled meeting, and notice has been posted in Town Hall and in newspapers, including the Star Ledger, the, Steve, you know, the
Record?
and the Record, and also posted in the hallway here. So, Mr. Scibilia, could you call the roll, please?
Yes. Ms. Bennett,
Present.
Mr. Hindman,
Here.
Mr. Rooney,
Here.
Mr. Reimnitz,
Here.
Mr. Graham.
Here.
This evening, Mr. Sweeney, Mr. Giuliano, Ms. Bauer, and Mr. Connolly are all excused.
Thank you, Tommy. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from June 8th, which you received in your packet. Does anyone have any corrections or suggestions for change on the minutes?
I abstain.
Oh, and you
Wasn't
weren't here. I have one on page 6, line 11, which is the Board of Adjustment referral for application 2851 109 Union Street. On line 11, could you add these two sentences? Because I think it's important that's in the minutes. And the first sentence is, Ms. Bennett introduced the application and gave a brief overview of the history of the property. And this is an additional sentence. It was noted that the previous owners requested total demolition of the residence. That application was denied, and that application was denied, period. And then the next sentence where it says Ike Eben, current owner, if you could insert current owner of the subject property and applicant. Okay? So with that addition, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Just Steve.
Steve? The resolutions, we have no resolutions. However, we do have a few committee reports. Minor applications had 2 meetings since our last regular scheduled meeting. One on June 15th, where we discussed application 2023 I believe it's 18, 2 Church Street. That was approved with conditions. Application 2023-19, 348 to 360 Bloomfield Avenue. That was approved with conditions. 2023-20, 20 Church Street. That was approved with conditions. And then we met on 6/29 for application 2023-21, 602 Bloomfield Avenue, and that was also approved with conditions. Going to the education and outreach, the Montclair Public Library and the Montclair History Center reached out to me about upping the history of your house, History at Home. So we've set 2 dates in October, one on a Wednesday and one on a Saturday afternoon. So when we get into the fall, I'll let you know. I know, Steve, you participated.
I've done it before.
And it's really quite interesting, and it's always very popular. People sign up for it. So we have that in October. And then the revisions committee met yesterday with the owner of 30 North Mountain Avenue, and he has done a couple of things on the property that needs approval or C of O from our commission, and he will be submitting an application at the September meeting.
And they also require permits, correct, for some of the work?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
from the building department.
From the building
Yeah.
department. So that will, hopefully we'll get all the information about that. I think the September meeting, both the August meeting, which is August 10th, and the September meeting are going to be, I think, quite full agendas. In August, we have the Label Street, and we have something else that's coming up that's important too.
Yeah, there's that's the big thing, and then there may be some referrals. That applications to the planning board and board of adjustment are kind of light right now. but we just received an application for a facade renovation on Bloomfield Avenue, and there's a total demolition application in as well
Oh.
for a house on Valley Road.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right, that'll be interesting. All right. So, does anyone else have any information about committees? No. All right, well, the public comment, we have no public tonight, so we'll close that. Old business, the Label Street Factory local landmark nomination has been continued from March 9th and postponed from April 13th, May 11th, and June 8th. The item is further postponed to the August 10th meeting. And I know in your packet, this most recent packet, you received the revised report. So hopefully everyone will read it. It has a lot more information, a lot more, like everybody needs more information.
And more detail.
from the last time, but also a critical eye in terms of our attorney reviewed it, and also our historic preservation consultant reviewed it as well. So plus two people in the preservation field reviewed it. So I think it's a good report, and I hope you all have a chance to read it. The next thing that's been postponed from tonight and will be, that's the important thing, next month rather, is on August 10th, is the minor subdivision from 509 Park Street. And that has been postponed from last month, and they asked for a postponement for the following month. So have those plans come into the office yet?
The plans were very recently submitted. It was like a few days ago. They wanted to be on this agenda, and we discussed it, and you thought it was not enough time for the materials to be distributed. So I think I had originally said we were going to try to put it on the agenda, and then kind of took that back. So they're going to go in August. You'll have a lot more time to review the new plans, and they've been revised in response to Connolly and Hickey went out there to look at the structures on the site to determine which structures were historically significant enough to warrant a total demolition. They identified those structures. We passed that along to the applicant, and they revised their plan accordingly to not have to demolish those structures.
Well, that's,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's great. All right, thank you, Tommy. New business, we're saying farewell tonight to our secretary and our assistant planner. Tommy, thank you very much. You've been extremely helpful and very pleasant and I know it's tough dealing with some of the applicants, so we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good job.
Yeah. So, we have discussion. Did you have something you wanted to discuss
I have a
tonight?
couple different things. I made a list of a couple things. One, on the top of my list is the Bellevue Theater.
Oh.
I keep going by there, and it keeps deteriorating
Keeps failing
more
you.
and more and more. And I just did a little, I think we have someplace in zoning that describes not vacancy, but what happens in terms of maintenance of historic buildings. And our lawyer is not here tonight, so I'm not able to ask the question, but we have the ability to, let me just find it here if I can. And some of this was trying to interpret this part of the ordinance.
Are you looking at the demolition by neglect portion?
Yeah, and then there's, after that is, there's something that said, here, let me just find it. I'm almost there. There's a lot to this here. 142 something. Demolition of historic structures, and then violation. Preventative maintenance notice of violations, 347-144. And it says, recognizing the need for preventative maintenance to ensure the continued useful life of historic buildings, structures, objects, and sites, the township hereby declares that code enforcement for such designated properties is a high municipal priority. Okay? Then it goes on to say, 347, 144. Now, it wasn't clear to me, B, what exactly 25% of replacing the entire building, structure, object, or site on which the violation occurs. Now, it seems to me we have some ability to push owners to preserve these buildings within a historic district, but maybe I'm wrong, you know? Every time I go by there, I just shake my head because it's slowly falling apart, and it's gonna get to a point where some of those, some of the historic elements just have to be replaced completely. So what can we do? I was gonna direct it towards our lawyer over here, but she's not here today, so.
So what I'll do is I'll write to her and I'll ask her to submit something to us, and we'll put it on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
Will you be here for next month?
Yes, I will be.
Okay.
So, I mean, the first step is, it's in the jurisdiction of the administrative officer, and unlike the demo ordinance, here it's the construction official. So we have to reach out to the code enforcement.
Okay.
Okay.
So that was one thing. And then the next,
But in terms of when we do reach out to them, we need to identify what the issues are, because there's that 25% threshold. So what are the,
yeah, but I didn't, that's not clear to me. Certainly, the work that needs to be done on the outside is not worth 25% of the cost of the entire structure. But does that allow you to just let the whole thing collapse around it? I mean, there's a long ways to get to before it's worth 25%. But it seems to me there's aspects of the facade, I don't know if we can consider those objects on the site that we consider historic, as opposed to the whole structure.
The roof also is with that slate material, right, which is very expensive. So I would think that would be a substantial cost.
but I don't
Yeah.
think you could bifurcate different elements. Like, let's say a window is the historic element that's deteriorating. You can't say, well, 50% of the value of the window in terms of repair is.
Okay, well, then I think
Yeah.
we have a long ways, if that's the interpretation, then there's then I don't know if we can do much of anything. But I find it hard to
I
believe
think we would
can
have to
just let it.
look and see if there are specific code violations related to
You mean construction
construction
code,
code,
building
or
code.
building maintenance.
Mhm.
Because I don't think we can get it with this threshold.
With that,
here. Yeah.
okay. So I wanted to bring that up because I just see that as unfortunate, and it's too bad if that's the case, that we don't have the ability to push people to take care of their buildings to some degree.
Can anybody in the building department reach out to the owners to,
I think it's been an
To-
ongoing issue, and
Yeah.
I think there has been outreach to them, but it doesn't hurt to try again.
try again? I mean, they have all the approvals they need.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah.
And there's nothing stopping us from, adopting a resolution and sending to them saying, we have concerns with the structural integrity.
Okay.
And if Janine has other ideas of ways
Right.
we can address this, I think we
It's
can.
a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was one item that I wanted to bring up. The other item is sort of related to South Fullerton in a way, which is, we're talking about that now because we looked at it now that it's done, and we compare it to what was approved, and there's a multitude of different things that don't line up, right? And that's probably not the only project that has come before us that the end result doesn't match what's been presented to us. And I don't know if we don't, there isn't a mechanism at the moment that I know that, for us to go out and check things once they're done. And maybe there should be some sort of system for that, you know? Because a lot of things just, well, we did our best. This is our interpretation of what was approved, and we did it, and we're done, and that's it. So I'd like to think there would be a more deliberate review of projects once they're complete, those that came before us for C of O approval.
I did speak to Margaret Hickey about that, and, because she's the HP officer in Glen Ridge, and she said that she works with, when they do something with, they get their building permits, then she goes and looks to see that it lines up
Before they can close out their permits.
before they can close out their
Oh, okay.
permits.
That's a great
Before they
idea.
close out their permit, that's interesting.
We can have a
So-
committee.
And we,
yeah.
and we don't have a similar mechanism as far as I know, that we're not really keyed in with the permitting process besides after reviewing the plans that are submitted to make sure they're consistent.
Is that an ordinance
although-
change though? Would we have to have an ordinance change in order to be able to enforce
Yeah,
that?
that's my question.
Probably
so?
Yeah.
to have like a planner or somebody like that keyed into the.
Or a
like,
committee, we could have a subcommittee do it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Because like I will go out and do inspections periodically when I have time, but there's so many projects
Right,
to
right.
inspect. So I tried to keep a spreadsheet of all of the projects that I was involved with. And I would periodically check the permitting system to see where the permit status was, to see like if it was open or if it was closed. If it was closed, I would go out there to photograph it and make sure it was consistent with the approvals. But, you know, it wasn't happening consistently. It's hard to
Right.
make time to do that.
Right.
But
Yeah, I think,
Jason, you think
um,
it's an ordinance change then?
There has to be something in the ordinance to allow that administrative mechanism. And we could probably put something as like a standard condition of approval, you know, because the way that the statute is framed, we are, like a C of O is what authorizes them to issue the permit in the first place.
Mhm.
So if a condition is prior to permit closeout, either the HP officer or subcommittee has to be involved in the review and authorize the closing of the permit. We could put that in there for now, but I think it probably needs an ordinance change so that the administrative mechanism is there for the building department to actually follow through and
Right.
and again, you know, if we have the consultant going out, that's something that has to get accounted for in the escrow.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay,
fees are gonna have to go up for that.
right.
But would we need the consultant to go out if we have the subcommittee do it?
Yeah, we would, if it's the subcommittee and it's just volunteers, then
Yeah.
And do we, I know.
that's a
sorry,
little
interrupted.
dicier too, because that it's like you're getting 2 bites of the apple, where it's.
But is it 2 bites of the
What's it?
apple if we're approving a plan and now we're just making sure that they
Conforming, yeah.
enforced it, right? Or that they conformed?
But it's just a
to the
little
COA.
bit different when it's an employee acting in an administrative ministry.
Oh,
We're
I
still
see.
a
Right,
quasi
Right.
judicial body.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be, we have discretion, whereas an administrative officer, it's more ministerial.
it's a great point, okay.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll broach that with Janine as well and
Yeah.
have her come up
Yeah,
with.
because we sit here, we do all this work, and
No, I
goes out the
agree.
door, and
Right.
Never
it
see it.
appears someplace else down the road, and what's the point, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Right,
So there's just, and only because we went by South Fullerton, or I went by, I don't know how that
Yeah.
started, and it just looked completely different than what we approved, so,
Yeah.
you know, so there's that, okay.
I mean, if it's something drastic, then, I mean, is it something that rises to the level of them violating what was approved?
I think so, okay? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
look at it and I go,
Okay.
wow, this doesn't look
right.
like what we approved. That's not. They can say, well, this was our best effort to do this, but
Mhm.
it wasn't that they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
they didn't do it.
It's an
okay, so,
interpretation of
yeah,
the plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now they pulled a permit. Yeah, there's another thing here, which is we don't see the permit plans, right, here in the HPC. We don't know what they filed for construction permit. So we've approved something, but then we're counting on you guys to
Right.
review the plans and,
Because they're routed to us first to make sure they're compliant. And the plans that are, for this project in particular, the plans on file there are the same as the plans that you guys approved.
Right.
So there's no issue there, it's just a matter of what's on site is not what's in the plans.
okay.
And in this case, because all of this was brought to everyone's attention, we're kind of doing what you just discussed in that they're not gonna close the permit until
Mhm.
all this stuff is resolved. But that's not the typical
Yeah.
procedure.
Okay.
It's only because you guys flagged it.
Right,
Right.
but we should have a procedure in place for the next time.
But Tommy brings up a good point, like, how do they do they would have to be on site, right, to do an actual walkthrough, you can't.
Yeah, you'd have to coordinate with the building
Yeah.
department and go
Right.
there with them probably.
Because can't just be based on the plans, because like here, they just submitted the same plans, that just didn't do what was on the plans.
Right. And, yeah, I don't know, I mean, I don't know how significant to the building department some of the facade stuff is, like they may have.
It's not.
Yeah,
It's
they
not.
probably would have
It's
closed
not.
the permits.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a tricky coordination thing
Right,
to make that happen.
but we've been
but
able to coordinate things so far.
We can you guys can talk to Margaret too to see how it's done there, how
Right.
how she gets notified or how that works.
So I just thought we could maybe
Yeah, no, I think
start
that's,
incorporating
but that's a good.
follow-up somehow, I don't know.
Right,
And then there was this whole thing that Tommy started about the HP element of the master plan.
oh,
And
that
looking
was
at
gonna be a
that,
question too.
And I've just started looking at I lost where we are with the status of that.
Okay, so I'll update you quickly. It's going to be on hold until there's a new assistant planner in place. I talked to Janice and she said she doesn't have the bandwidth right now to manage it, so she wants the new assistant planner to kind of take that over once they're brought on.
Have they started the process of looking?
Yeah, the job was posted a few weeks ago, and there's been a few applicants. I don't think any interviews have been scheduled just yet, but it hopefully will not be too big of a gap between when I leave and when the new person starts. So
Well,
as
any
far
gap
as
is a big gap.
but in the meantime, I think that you guys should review the HP element as we discussed and take your notes. I think doing it the way that I had asked, like in a Word document, just documenting it kind of by page so it's easy to compile for the new person would be helpful. You'll just have more time to do it now at this point.
That matrix that you sent out, did you send it via computer or was that a hard copy?
I think I did both.
Yeah.
I can resend it.
Could you resend that
Yeah.
again?
I
Okay.
have it here.
Okay.
I can email it to you, too.
Yeah, and that was just kind of my
Yeah.
first
take it.
stab
No,
at
it was a very, it was
But
a good,
it's, you
right.
guys, and so basically on that Word document, you'd go in there and add your own text or you know,
Right.
whatever you want to do to change it, because it was, it's totally up to you guys. You can change whatever I put in there. It's
Okay,
not in stone.
all right.
But I'll resend them.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
Thank you. No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
So Tommy, before you go, is there anything else outstanding that we should be aware of? I know I've asked you for a couple of things that I want on computer before they disappear into God knows where.
I think everything, I've been copying Janice on everything that's kind of pending at this point. So she's keyed in on mostly everything. I think we discussed most of it already tonight. 30 North Mountain is one. This upcoming demolition review, she's been copied on all of the emails. I just finished the report on that one today. So yeah, she's got everything kind of under her belt. I sent a kind of comprehensive email of all of the files that I have in my office that need to be passed on to somebody else.
Okay.
yeah, we don't have any minor applications that have been filed recently, but Janice will be handling those meetings as well.
Okay. Will the
Yeah.
demolition be on the agenda for August as well?
It's possible, so
Ooh.
it's possible, it depends. So this one, they're claiming structural issues, and so we're sending the engineer, or the commission's engineer out there to do a structural inspection
Oh, good.
of the building.
Mhm.
It's Boswell, and they're usually pretty quick, so they may be done with that by next week. But it's also a matter of coordinating with the property owner to get them into the building.
Maybe they'll
So
be on
depending on how quickly they get their report back to us.
Right.
Um,
So it's either
also if
August or September?
August or September.
Okay, so we're
But maybe
gonna have-
August, maybe September, it's kind of up in the air at this point.
Okay, great. So that's that, and I know I've asked you for some updates for the website.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
Um,
I've made those changes, I believe.
Which you made, those
yeah.
changes, yeah.
Um,
And you just said, which I didn't realize, the Upper Montclair District report, you know, here, did you just say that this wasn't on the?
So all of the surveys are on there, but I
Right.
think if you like were to zoom out and click on like the whole district, I don't think that report is linked.
Okay.
But it may be somewhere else on the website. But I'll look into that and I'll try to get that up tomorrow.
Okay, great. And I know I also asked Tommy for the wording for the grant that we submitted this year too, so we can update that for next year, for 2024. And then I think that was it. You have the HP, our preservation awards, I asked you to update on the website. And then that, the typable application.
That's up there.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's, and that will be taken down, that's up there for,
Yeah.
okay, great, all right. All right, so
Yeah,
then-
if you guys see anything on the website that needs to be updated, let me know tomorrow morning or it won't get updated. No, Janice can make updates as well, but.
Yeah, I asked her while you were away to do updates for the agenda, so that seemed to work okay.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
worked
she's perfectly capable of doing all of that. The Label Street, there's a webpage for the Label Street District.
Mhm.
That'll need to be updated after the hearing, depending on what happens there, and then once the planning board hearing is scheduled and all of that. So you may, if you see that it's not updated, you may just have to remind Janice, hey, can you add the meeting dates to this
Okay.
webpage so people are aware?
But you haven't received any response yet from the owners?
No, not yet.
Okay, I know it's kind of early, but you should in the next week.
Yeah.
They should come in, because it has to be 2 weeks before the meeting, and our next meeting is August 10th, it's early.
Yeah, so hopefully they have something to us soon.
Okay, good,
I'm sure Janice will distribute it once we get it.
okay. Is there any, so, thank you, Tommy. Any other then points for discussion? Great, so it's just 3 minutes after 8, motion to adjourn?
I think it's the fastest.
Yeah.
Wait, do you want to give that to Tommy now?
Well,
We do it after?
I thought we'd do it
Ah,
after,
okay,
but,
yeah, fair enough.
all right, so, thank you, and we'll see everybody on August 10th.